Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're going to continue on reading letter 5 in Jesus Christ, the Christ letters, the truth. And as a reminder, in letter 5, Christ begins to explain the true processes of creation. He touches on what science and religious doctrines have believed, rejects them, and defines the truth of being. He touches on the truth regarding the human ego, the means of earthly individuality and therefore necessary, but also the source of suffering for all humanity. All right. And just as a reminder, before I continue on reading this section of the book is written in a very unique format, making it a little bit more challenging to read out loud. So I'm going to do my best, and I'm just going to show you kind of what I'm working with here. This is what these few pages look like, just a little different than your regular text. And I believe it's been laid out for that reason on purpose. The bold letters, the italics, and the breaking up of words sort of forces us to slow down a bit. But we only have a handful of pages left in letter 5. So we're going to continue talking about the processes of creation as Christ tells us it came into being, and also the ego. The universal awareness of being became the impulse of individualized I awareness demanding self-expression. Life and I-ness are synonymous in the dimension of matter. They became the consciousness of matter. What is the consciousness of life? It is father-intelligence and impulse of movement, seen as electricity. Mother-love, impulse of purpose-nurturing-survival, seen as magnetism in matter. Can you begin to imagine the explosion of consciousness of awareness? To help you fractionally visualize what happened at the moment of the Big Bang, try to recall a moment when you also experienced an explosion in your consciousness. This takes place when you have set your entire being on achieving some very important goal. About to embark on your plans in a state of excited anticipation, some trivial circumstance or insensitive person prevents you from achieving your heartfelt purposes. How would you feel? Your concentration would be split and you would explode. Here again, I must call on my recorder to think up some examples of my meaning in human terms. For the least earthly consciousness is drawn from universal consciousness. So here's the example she's going to share, or he. You are at the airport, excited and ready to fly for an unexpected holiday overseas. On reaching your travel bureau counter, you discover there are no documents or tickets, and no record of any reservations for flight or holiday accommodation, although you have already paid for them by credit card. How will you feel? You were all dressed in a very expensive outfit, wining and dining important customers, and are about to clinch a big contract worth millions. The waiter drops a plate of hot casserole on your head. How will you feel? You go shopping and come out to the car park to find the wheels and doors of your car have been removed in broad daylight. Sympathetically, you open your purse to give a whining, crippled beggar all your silver, but the man straightens up, forcefully snatches the purse from you, and runs like an athlete. How will you feel? In all these instances, you would have a strong consciousness enterprise to the very front of your mind. Your head would be filled with the plan to move out and do something to achieve a certain purpose, peacefully. Your intent would be interlocked with your purpose, therefore an equilibrium, but note that there would be no mounting tension of anticipation as you neared your goal. The greater the tension, the greater the explosion. You would in fact be in the same state as universal consciousness/awareness intent. Father intelligence in equilibrium with the mother purpose, to give being and form to the plan you intend to create. After your explosion, can you imagine the ensuing mental emotional chaos, the inability to think straight, the thoughts which would come, one after another, demanding expression, none of them sensible or logical. Try to realize that you, individualized form, are the microcosm of the macrocosm. You are a pinhead expressing universal consciousness awareness, either in equilibrium when you meditate in stillness of thought, or as active consciousness when you think and feel, plan and create. Therefore, if you can relate your tiny consciousness explosion to the explosion of the heavens, you will gain some small idea of the ensuing chaos, both momentarily within the universal dimension and in eons of time within the newly created expanse of the dimension of matter, still in its formless state. Therefore, many of you will have to wholly rearrange your thinking in regard to creation. It started out as a condition of utter chaos. The universal impulses were divided. There were no blueprints to direct or control the beginning of individuality. The impulses were still without any conscious form or direction. They were natural impulses to perform certain distinct impulsive functions in consciousness. But they were not intelligently directed into specific movement or bonding by any higher directing force. They were on their own, separated and lost impulses of consciousness awareness, able to receive impressions, but there were no impressions to receive, other than those of interior chaos, of movement activity, of electricity and bonding repulsion, of magnetism. This consciousness chaos was manifested within creation as chaos of particles. Within this expanse of electrical particles, however, there was the overriding awareness of I-ness. No matter what the chaos, the I-ness came through in the Father, intent to move about, to take control, to create. The I-ness took initial form in a positive charge of electrical energy. It became the dominant I force as a proton, with its satellite of negative electric charge, whereupon mother purpose of bonding was activated in those conditions of a positive electrical charge meeting a negative electrical charge. They took to each other, as one might say of the evolved male and female in living species, and bonded. Mother purpose of repulsion, was also activated when two positive or two negative electrical charges looked likely to meet and react negatively. She stepped in and pushed them apart, just like her evolved female mother counterpart would separate two unruly, highly charged ruffians about to engage in a fight. This was the only form of consciousness awareness within the chaos for a very long time, since time is of no consequence within the realm of matter itself. Time only becomes of importance when there occurs an impinging of conscious awareness between electrical charges resulting in bonding or repulsion, a progression of adjacencies and events taking place and purposes to be filled. Otherwise, time is meaningless. Creation is the product of primary impulses working individually and together, making impressions upon the other, fulfilling inbuilt needs imprinted within consciousness. These needs being at the outset to increase and experience self-expression, leading to further separation, then to restore a sense of inner security and comfort, to be reunited within the harmony of universal consciousness. Out of this driving force for a reunited harmony of being came the male-female drive for reunion, to recapture the bliss which is buried in the soul consciousness. You could make an analogy of the foregoing paragraph with the habit of fathers going out to work in the morning and returning hopefully to the comfort and reunion with family in the evening, where he regains the strength to venture the forthcoming next morning to do battle with the world again. Therefore, the process of creation, of universal self-expression, took millions of years within time to accomplish. After the Big Bang, the father-mother creative process was divided into two different energies, continually working apart and together, independent yet mutually constrained to work together, having individual characteristics or nature and different functions. Therefore, their workload was and is different yet invisible. You already know, and by a process of meditation, should have fully understood the nature of the father and the nature of the mother within the equilibrium of the universal dimension. Briefly, the nature of the father is to be active, creative, and perform the work of creativity. It is also the I-ness of individualized existence, and that is the letter I with an apostrophe and then NESS. Everything living from a hornet to a hippopotamus has a strong sense of I-ness and the need to protect that I-ness. The nature of the mother is to give form to the electrical consciousness plan initiated by Father Intelligence by bonding the electrical particles together. Father and mother consciousness, primary impulses, are both within the equilibrium and of the nature of the universal dimension, and consequently, as they create individual form, they carry out the work of the nature of the universal dimension, which is growth, providing nutrition, nourishment, healing, protection, fulfillment of need within a consistent system of law and order, survival. Father and mother consciousness energies are impulses, both restrained within the universal dimension. And when they have been released from equilibrium, they powerfully perform the work of creation. Furthermore, consider the magnitude of their work within creation throughout the world. The father-mother impulses prompt every level of creation, from the formation of elements, the living molecule and cell, to the magnificent mammoth. They also work instinctually within parents to prompt them to unity, to conceive, bear, and rear their young. Some fathers absent themselves after the birth of their progeny, be they eggs, puppies, or humans. These are the fathers whose sense of I-ness is greater than their inborn fathering instincts. It is at this point that you must become fully aware of the meaning of impulse. You may think this seems a very nebulous form of creativity, but if you reflect for a while, you may eventually realize that no human or animal or insect or even plant undertakes any activity within the material dimension without an inner consciousness coercion, which is an impulse. It may be to turn to face the sun, to run, to eat, to work, to sleep, to go shopping, to have a baby. Always, the impulse precedes the activity, even the flick of an eyelid. Furthermore, there is no impulse prompting any activity which is not directed by a purpose. Plants turn flowers and leaves to catch the rays of the sun for growth. People run to get fit, eat to satisfy hunger, work to earn a salary, sleep to escape the tensions and recharge the energy, go shopping to buy food, all directed at survival and personal comfort. Therefore, the impulses are the reality behind and within all creation. If all matter were to return to its original form of electrical particles, the universal impulses would remain intact and would eventually give form to another creation. The impulses are forever. However, electrical particles within living matter are here today and gone tomorrow, but the soul moves on. You think with electrical impulses in the brain. You feel with magnetic impulses in your nervous system. They center and bond the electrical impulses into a cohesive whole. Without the magnetic bonding in your system, you would be all go, go, and no, and that's KNOW, like you know something. Now is the moment to take you back to my desert experiences described to you in letter 1. You may remember that when I went to the River Jordan to be baptized by John, I was a rebel, my face set against the teaching of the Jews, who stated that Jehovah punished men for their sins. Intuitively, I felt that this was a false and cruel concept and rejected it. After I was shown the truth concerning creation, I could not understand why perfect consciousness did not create perfect beings, made in the image of their creator intelligent love. I asked the Creator, universal consciousness, why mankind endured so much suffering and evil. I was then shown very clearly that all the problems experienced by humans arose from the central point of the self. Science now calls this the ego. It manifested itself in the personality as a driving need to defend the self from criticism or emotional physical attack, and a similar driving need to push aside other people in order to arrive first in the race of life. It also manifested itself in the personality as a driving need to take all that was best for the self, despite the opposition of others, and a similar driving need to hold on to personal possessions, be they relatives, friends, material goods, or achievements, despite any opposition. I was also made to understand that without these two fundamental, eternal, undeviating impulses of creative being, there would be no creation. This is the secret of creation and the secret of existence and of individual being. By working together as a team, separately but inseparable in the visible world, these twin impulses were the means by which the substance of matter itself has been created out of the sublime universal consciousness. One impulse of creativity is the I-ness of activity. The impulse of activity is universal and stems from only one source. Activity is a movement in consciousness, and consciousness in movement. The other creative impulse possesses, figuratively speaking, two faces, looking in opposite directions. They are bonding-rejection, pull towards the self, push away, otherwise known as attraction-repulsion, attract to the self from repel within consciousness. These are the only means by which earthly existence has been achieved. The entire universe is a manifestation of the creative power active within these twin impulses of physical being, creating matter and individual form. This is one of the fundamental secrets of the universe. I saw that the core of the personality, or ego as it is now called, had been created guardian of personality and was irresistibly imprinted with the magnetic impulse to ensure privacy and survival for the protection of the individual I-ness. This was accomplished by using the two faces of the second impulse of being, bonding-rejection, to secure individuality. Just taking a look at where we're at. We're almost done, actually. The face of bonding drags, draws, attracts, demands, pulls, buys, grabs, clutches, clings to the people and possessions it craves. This impulse creates an illusion of security in togetherness and possessions. It is the tool of Mother Consciousness, inspiring the building of families, communities, and nations. It can be productive of beauty, joy, harmony, and love. It can also wreck lives and destroy communities when it is ego-driven. The face of rejection repels, thrusts aside, pushes away, evades everything, people, animals, possessions it does not want. Thus, the impulse of rejection creates an illusion of privacy and security. It is the impulse that urges rifts in families, relationships, communities, and nations. It is supposedly geared to saving lives, ensuring protection and privacy, but it is a destructive force when it is ego-driven. Within these twin impulses of being, all things would have remained forever merged into one another within the eternal timelessness of universal creative power in equilibrium. Without these twin impulses, there would be no interplay of give and take and pull and push, necessary to the creation of the millions of personal experiences out of which personality grows and evolves. Therefore, the problem of personality and the ego drive, endured by all living things in mankind, is an irrevocable, unavoidable fact of creation. Any other explanation is pure myth. I saw that what men called sin was the direct result of the interplay of the bonding-rejection impulses within human nature. The bonding-rejection impulses constituted the emotional/mental mask worn by all created individual entities, including birds and animals. You see these impulses at work within all of nature, even within plant life. The bonding-rejection impulses directs the behavior towards survival of all entities in creation. There was no escaping the bonding-rejection impulses. These twin impulses were the ephemeral source of all worldly comfort, pleasure, happiness, and also the source of all sickness, misery, and deprivation in the world. However, added to these, transcending, underlying, and interpenetrating all, was and is life, born of the explosion of universal consciousness, is the very foundation and source of earthly consciousness. Therefore, even as the Father-Mother consciousness is creative, so is man's thinking creative. For human thought and feeling are both the exercise and union of the twin tools of the Father-Mother consciousness. Therefore, these impulses of bonding rejection in the individual personality also become highly creative in that they determine and make visible the consciousness forms of things desired and things rejected. This is the second fundamental secret of the universe. I saw that sin was an artificial concept, expediently devised by men to describe any human activity causing pain to others. Because of their natural makeup of grabbing from other people and of rudely repelling them in order to get what they wanted from life, it was inevitable that all human beings would, at some time, cause other human beings some form of distress or suffering. This human propensity to hurt others in no way caused offense to universal consciousness or God, as was affirmed by Jewish and Christian religion. Only mankind understood the meaning of the word sin, since only mankind and all of creation subject to mankind would ever know the pain, deprivation, and misery caused by the two fundamental impulses of individuality, which is bonding-rejection, active within the human personality. Man's inbuilt impulse to protect his own individuality had made him set up rules and laws for human society. The universal creative power, love, had absolutely nothing to do with the setting up of human restrictions, limitations, laws, and judgment. I also saw that the Father-Mother creative power, life, continually flowed through all the universe, and was the life in my mind using the twin impulses of thought and feeling. Hence, any powerful, imperfect thinking and feeling could disturb and change the consciousness pattern of created things. Conversely, my thinking, when fully cleansed of the twin impulses of ego and fully receptive of the Father-Mother creative power, intelligence, love, would reintroduce the condition of perfect intelligent love. Therefore, a condition previously made imperfect as a result of imperfect thought could be brought back into a condition of wholeness again by changing ego attitudes and thoughts to those of unconditional love. My mind was a tool of the whole creative process originating in the universe, in the universal. Now that I knew this was so, knew it spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, I realized I could and must take steps to overcome the twin impulses of ego previously governing my mind, in order to allow the divine reality full scope through my mind and brain. This is why there was a struggle between my humanly entrenched ego and my Father-Mother consciousness during the very strident temptations I experienced at the end of my enlightenment in the desert. Satan had nothing to do with the tug-of-war which took place within my consciousness. The war was waged between the twin impulses of individuality, which are bonding - rejection, and the divine reality, which had made itself known to me as intelligent love life, transcendent, yet within me, and which would gradually take over my individuality to an ever greater extent if I continually meditated and cleared my consciousness of selfish impulses. The foregoing is a description of the powerful knowledge I returned to Nazareth with. Therefore, my physically healing time spent with my mother whilst she nursed me back to health was also a time of prayer and meditation, from which I drew the inspiration and strength to consciously and conscientiously live the nature of the divine or universal reality. And here's our last page. As you know, the nature of the divine or universal reality is life. When it is active within creation, or we can also say within the individuality of creation, it grows, nourishes, provides nutrition, regenerates, heals, protects, ensures survival, fulfills the needs of everything created, all within a system of perfect harmony, cooperation, and law and order. This is the nature of life. All its work in creation is done in accordance with universal nature, the promotion of the highest good of all living things. If you can understand these words, you will realize why I returned from the desert, a man filled with joy, with a new awareness of the beauty of the world, a feeling of absolute confidence, and knowing it was possible to control the appearance of matter. You will feel with me my own elation that I could now offer the Jews the glorious news that the kingdom of heaven was in their midst. All they had to do was find it with my assistance, and their lives would be changed forever. I leave you with the same knowledge which, prayerfully used and fully understood, can change the course of your life. As you read, your consciousness will be lifted, and as you seek inspiration, it will come to you. I long for you to understand, aspire, grow, and achieve. Relax in my light, for whilst you read, reflect, meditate, and pray, you are drawn into my Christ consciousness, which will become ever more apparent to you as you evolve within this divine knowledge. My love and faith in your growing wisdom enfold you. Okay. That completes letter 5. And in letter 6, we're going to be talking more about this, more about the ego, and more about our DNA and how it's termed as such. It's sort of 5 and 6 are a continuation of each other, although I do not think that letter 6 is going to be quite so scientific. It's going to be more, I'm not sure how to put it. It's just not going to be as scientific, if I recall, and from what I'm seeing here. So I thank you all so very much for joining me. I love you all very much. And until I see you again, please take care of yourselves. Please take care of those around you. And yeah, I'll see you for the beginning of letter 6 in the Christ letters. Take care till next time. Bye-bye.